Antonio's winning it all. I mean, I can't find a team that can really that just has all the pieces they do. I mean, that they have the best coach, they have the best bench, most experience, best system. I mean, I know everybody at my school wants to hate on San Antonio, but the reality is they are still the best. They're still the kings at the top.
Hey, like people say, the Spurs are the Patriots of the NBA.
Yes, they are.
Vice versa.
Yes. Yes, they are.
They're just good. They age well, like a fine wine. They get better with age. Like
Yeah.
Kobe.
Oh, you're gonna say Kobe? Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's done it. We'll talk about him later though, if we have some time. But I want to talk about the team that lost to San Antonio in the Western Conference Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had no Durant early, no Westbrook, just all over the place as a franchise. And now they have both healthy players, Durant and Westbrook. Can they somehow get to the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs?
You hear about all these articles talking about when Westbrook and Durant come back, they'll have to win yada yada some odd amount of games, 48, 49 games, something like that. They've won a few in a row. They've looked really good. Durant's still on that 30-minute restriction. The OKC medical staff has been really strict about that. Westbrook has been playing amazing these last few games. They're a much more complete team than last year.
Yeah.
So they don't miss the playoffs. I don't think they miss the playoffs. Like you and I were always saying, if OKC had run into the Portland in the first or in the playoffs last year, they wouldn't have won. That's the same thing. I think if they get favorable matchups, you'll see them in the Western Conference Finals again. But if they run into Golden State or say a Portland in that second round or even first round, they're in trouble.
Yeah, I do believe it's based on matchups too in the West. I mean, seeding really is irrelevant until you. I mean, it just all depends about matchups. And I agree. I think OKC is the playoff team, and they're going to make it with Durant and Westbrook. And I don't want to say injuries are a good thing, but they've played more, balanced and under control. I mean, sometimes I feel like Westbrook and Durant can be two loose cannons going to the rim with absolutely no control. I just feel like sometimes that team loses control, but now they're back on track and ready to go, and they're definitely a dangerous team.
How far do you think they can finish? How high do you think they can finish in terms of standings? I don't think they'll be like a top 3, but do you think they'll finish in the middle tier or that 7-8 or that 7 or 8 seed?
I think they're a 7-8 seed. Just because of how big of a hole they've had to go through. I mean, try to fight their way out of. And again, Phoenix is still good. Dallas is a top team. Sacramento and New Orleans are kind of in the mix, and we don't know. They can just maybe go off in spurts. I mean, we've seen New Orleans go on spurts. So we don't know. I don't think they can really get to the 5-6 spot. I think they're going to be in the 7th or 8th spot.
Yeah, That's more reasonable for them. Okay, back to Cleveland. Is their head coach, David Blatt, is he an elite coach yet? Or is it too early to tell?
No, he is. He is.
Oh!
Yes, he is. He's an elite coach because I know he hasn't had any real experience in the NBA. We know how great he is internationally. And even here in the NBA, he's had to deal with huge egos, okay? And he's been able to get this team back on track. The 2 Toronto games, they put up magical and just ridiculous offensive numbers. Defensively, they're getting better. And they almost won the game yesterday without LeBron James. So
yeah, but
David...
You should expect them to be competitive because they're still a good team without LeBron. They're still a good team.
Okay, it's the same team last year plus Kevin Love.
Yeah, and that's a big boost.
Yeah, but it's not. To me, they shouldn't on the road. I don't think they're that good. I think David Blatt makes them that good because of how great their offense is. and how people have said in the league how revolutionary he is on offense. I think he's going to change the game on offense. And quite frankly, people are saying, oh, LeBron didn't join Cleveland because of the coach, that LeBron just joined because he wanted to come back home. No, the coach had a part in the decision because David Blatt is truly a great offensive coach. He's better than Spoelstra when it comes to offense, okay?
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Uh,
Nobody believes in David Blatt, but David, I know nobody believes in you, but I'm here to believe in you. And you'll see at the end of the year, everybody will be clapping for you in the playoffs. You'll see.
One thing I do like about him is how he was able to transform. We know LeBron, how he likes to share the ball, get a lot of people involved. We know Irving and Love, two offensive-minded players. I like how he's kind of transformed them into like their roles. I mean, I'm not a fan of Kevin Love's role, but I love Kyrie Irving's role of he's going to get his, but he also knows how to distribute.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I do like is the way he's centered his superstars in the offense.
Yeah, and I also think, but we were talking about Chicago earlier. Hypothetically, if Chicago and Cleveland face each other in the playoffs, which I think they will, if Kevin Love plays the 5 spot, who can guard him? Who's gonna come out to the 3-point line and challenge him? I mean, he's almost like an extra guard.
Noah, you know how good Joakim Noah is on the ball. He's a great on-ball defender.
Okay, that's true, but you know how great of a shot blocker he is. If you take Joakim Noah out of the lane, I mean, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, they're going directly to the basket, and they're finishing every time. So that's what makes, to me, Cleveland better than Chicago. Because they have that ability they have Love, and he's so versatile, and he can shoot the 3 ball. I mean, how can Chicago compete with that? That's just what I see between those two teams.
Yeah, it's that's such an interesting matchup between those two teams. They both have their strength, they both have their weaknesses. Hey, when it comes time in May, it's gonna be an epic Eastern Conference Finals. I'm hoping both teams make it because any other team besides Cleveland or Chicago would kind of be a letdown for both franchises. Rockets and Clippers. We talked a little bit about the Rockets. Rockets and Clippers quietly keep winning games. They're not talked about a lot like OKC is or Golden State this season in terms of winning. But the Rockets have won a lot of games. They're 16-5 without Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And the Clippers, they're hardly talked about. They're just going in, winning games. You saw Blake Griffin have that game winner against the Suns. But they're taking care of business. What do you think is the key to these two teams' success?
For the Rockets, it's always going to be the 3-point shot. I mean, they're going to be stretches, though, where they're going to be absolutely cold from the 3-point line. I mean, we've seen it before. And I don't think it has to do necessarily with, because Howard's not in, the Rockets are good. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, people want to just take shots at Howard, I just feel like. And then you look at the Clippers, more balanced. Everybody's, committed to making the extra pass. Defensively, they've gotten better. DeAndre Jordan has improved. Blake Griffin has improved. Even Chris Paul has improved, which is pretty surprising to me. I mean, how much can he improve when you're the best? But he has improved. So I think the Clippers are better than the Rockets currently right now. But both teams have been very impressive. Who do you think is the better out of the two?
I'm gonna go Clippers.
Yeah.
It's scary how much potential they have and how good they could be if they can get rid of those playoff issues, those issues that they're a great regular season team. Come playoff, things fall apart. If they can get rid of those, and if Doc Rivers and the coaching staff would get together and feel like, what do we have to do? And the players too, what do we have to do to stay consistent in the regular season to the playoffs. They can figure it out. They can be dangerous. Okay. Should we worry about the Spurs? Are you? I'm not worried about the Spurs at all.
I put this question up because people I've talked to, they're like, why aren't the Spurs number one already? I mean, they trot their way to the playoffs and they can plug in and plug guys out. I'm not worried about them. I just put that out there because there are some people who may be concerned about San Antonio, but I think they are a top 3 seed in my opinion. So San Antonio, again, they're going to trot their way. They're going to have all their guys healthy like usual, and they always put themselves in a position to succeed. I mean, as you said before the show, the Spurs are the Patriots of the NBA. So that was a great point you made there about the Spurs. What about, and we're going back to the Eastern Conference now, the Brooklyn Nets. We thought, okay, they have a fighter's chance. They're an automatic playoff team.
They're a good team. They have the talent. I would say they're
yeah, but we know they have the talent to make it. But can they put it together and make the playoffs?
No. My answer is no. I don't think they're going to get any better. They are where they are. They got to win the games that they should be winning. They've been relatively healthy this year. So I had a few guys missing a game or two. I don't think they make the playoffs. There's been talks that Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, and Brook Lopez are being made available by the Nets front office. I don't know how true that is, but maybe the Nets realize that they're not going to win a championship with this team. Probably not going to go very far. So maybe they trade one of their guys, see what they can get, some young pieces maybe. But yeah, I think last year was their only window and they blew it.
Yeah, I think just Brooklyn's just old. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. They're just too old. And I know this is going to be one of our next topics soon about Lance Stevenson and Dion Waiters, but if I'm Brooklyn, I look at Lance Stevenson. I really do. I would trade Joe Johnson to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Brooklyn, and I know a lot of people are saying Lance Stevenson can't be a franchise player. I think he can be. I think Lance Stevenson is a franchise player, and I think Brooklyn, if they want to really get things going and have a young guy, a young superstar possibly, a young Latrell Sprewell, you have to go with Lance Stevenson as your cornerstone because it's not going to work so far with Joe Johnson. And I know Joe Johnson is a great talent, but in my opinion, Joe Johnson would thrive more in Cleveland than Brooklyn. So if I'm Brooklyn, I go for Lance Stevenson.
Well, if you're Brooklyn, would you do a straight-up Joe Johnson for Stevenson trade, or?
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. What am I saying? Joe Johnson go to Cleveland. Yeah. Joe Johnson to Charlotte, excuse me. I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, I would rather... I think Joe Johnson would have some success in Charlotte, and Stevenson would work better in Brooklyn. Because, again, Joe Johnson's a quiet guy in the locker room, and Charlotte needs that. Because Charlotte can't take strong personalities in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn can. So if I'm Brooklyn, I take the chance, and I go for Lance Stevenson. Straight up trade with Joe Johnson.
Yeah, we'll stay on Charlotte because they have been struggling. They were on like I think it's an 8 or 9 game losing streak earlier this year. They've won 6 games. This is the Charlotte team many NBA analysts are talking about as a top 5 team. Stevenson, Al Jefferson, Kemba Walker. They got Marvin Williams too. They have a pretty good team. Cody Zeller's improved, but they just can't seem to. They couldn't seem to win games early. I don't know how much this is gonna hurt them later on in the season, being so far down from the Eastern Conference's elite teams. But I thought they'd be up there with Atlanta. I thought they'd have a really good year. It's been tough for them.
Yeah, I said the same thing earlier.